Hello and welcome to the first episode of Bums Breakdown. Today we're going to go over the pre-season preview. A lot to go into today. We're going to go to kind of a recap of last season, kind of changes in the off-season, breakdown of new signings, go through the current squad depth and what we believe to be our best 11 and kind of tactics, review the schedule, and then we're going to finish off with some predictions. And then, as always, we're joined by Dylan. Dylan, first of all, I want to get into kind of a recap of last season, but in your own words, how do you think last season went for us?
I think last season was a mixed bag, is the way I would describe last season. Obviously we did, well to score as many goals as we did and finish second in the West, but I think anyone who was paying attention the whole way through would resonate with the mixed bag.
Yeah, I think partly too, we got carried away, I think, beginning of the season as well. We kind of went on, what, a 5, 6 game winning streak, and everyone was like, right, we're going to absolutely walk the league this year. And then kind of came the reality check that it may not all be as good as it may seem. But again, we still finished second in the league, best ever finish. But obviously, going into the playoffs, uh, still yet to score a goal. But as far as things go, do you think kind of last season was a big kind of upgrade from the season before?
I do, absolutely. I think that despite the flaws in the team, we scored a bunch of goals, which was a lot more fun than the season prior, where it got a bit tedious at times.
And I think that's the main thing is that we've kind of gone from we always build out the back and again can always become that kind of the pass around the back, the U, and then kind of may not seem like we're really ever going to attack. But I think the main thing last season for me was the addition of Kai Vassell, which again he's not with us this season, but I think having him in the team allowed us to kind of have the outball, which I'm hoping we can do this season, but it remains to be seen. But I mean, we'll go into now obviously the changes in the off season. But how big of a kind of difference do you think it's going to be without Kyle next season?
I mean, he's our leading goal scorer, so that's obviously a big loss. But I think even more than that was the way he changed how we were able to play, what you kind of alluded to, the way it gave us that long ball option. So I don't know if the squad as it is now is suited to give us that. Still, we'll get into that a bit later, obviously. But the last thing I'll say about Kyle Vassell is he was a big personality. He was clearly well liked in the team, and he was obviously well liked in the fan base. I will miss having him around just from like a person standpoint, not just obviously the great thing he brought to the field. So he will be missed for sure, and he will always be a favorite of mine.
Yeah, that was definitely a tough one for me to see to leave the team, and obviously we've got the other kind of departures here. Obviously, a Mang, Jack Blake, Carlton, and Metcalf retiring as well. Out of those guys, obviously, Mang and Blake, another two big additions. Obviously, Metcalf has been with was with the team for a while as well. Who do you think we're going to miss most out of Thomas Mang and Jack Blake?
I think we'll miss Thomas Among more. For a couple of reasons. First of all, because Jack Blake, while he's an excellent player, I don't know that we ever really got the best out of him. Maybe the first season he was here before he got injured, but I felt like he was a bit of a tactical misfit for what we were trying to do sometimes. But also, Thomas Among moved just up the road to Orange County, so that is going to obviously yield a goal against us at some point.
Yeah, and that's what I'm not looking forward to. But yeah, I mean, spot on there as far as Jack Blake goes. I think going back to kind of last season, or not last season, but 2 seasons ago, and he had a great season, signed the 2 year contract. I think everything was going well for him. But again, like you mentioned, this didn't really fit into our system, and now we kind of stuck with that kind of 3-5-2 as such. And I know when we kind of played the 4-4-2 with the switching and with Jack Blake starting on the right, coming in the middle, but just wasn't a great fit for him. I know obviously he's a great player, but it was a shame to see him really not work in our system. And then, because the next topic here with Nate Miller being promoted to the manager role now, do you think we're going to see that many changes, or you think kind of his influence is already there coming from last season?
I don't know. If you asked Landon, he would tell you that nothing's going to change. In fact, I'm pretty sure he said that in an interview, and I think that that is probably the going consensus. But I just feel like there's no way that that's possibly true, that Landon had zero influence on the way the team played. So I don't think there will be a lot of change, but I do think we might see yeah, some differences. Will they be obvious? That's another question.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Obviously, losing, I'm not losing Landon, he's still there, but I'm interested to see kind of how the team dynamic changes. And obviously, he's always going to be around anyway. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to see if kind of maybe Nate was being held back a little bit with a few things. But obviously, we'll see once the season gets away. And obviously, we've kind of gone over kind of losing Vassell and Amang, basically losing our two top goal scorers and the only two guys to get double figures last season. Quickly though, who do you think? Obviously, Conway is going to be the kind of main striker, but anyone else you kind of pick out who could be kind of a leading goal scorer for for us this season?
I think Toomey's gonna need to have himself another big year. I think it was 2021. He was our top goal scorer with, I think it was like 9 or 10 or 11 goals, something like that. And then last year he had 6 or 7 goals and 6 or 7 assists, which obviously is a great output. But I think if he's going to be playing that second striker role, which again we'll get into that a little bit later, I think we're gonna need Toomey's gonna need to have himself a good goal scoring year.
Yeah, and let's hope he does. The
Yeah,
next
absolutely.
next thing we'll go into here, we'll do kind of a little breakdown of our new signings. We've got four so far. Blake Bodley from Portland Timbers, Elliot Collier from San Antonio, Joe Corona from Sundsvall in Sweden, and a former US national team player, and then Adrian Perez, former LAFC, DC United, and Ontario Strikers of the MASL. Out of those guys, obviously one stands out, obviously being Corona, but for you, kind of, what do you think these guys can bring to the team? And kind of, apart from Corona, who do you think out of those other three who's going to be a kind of a main part for us this season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Joe Corona will be. So we'll just skip right over that because he's obviously going to be a key piece for us this year. I am very excited about Elliot Collier. I think that people are underestimating him a little bit. He's definitely had some injury issues thus far in his career, but he's still young. I think he's mid 20s at the oldest. And he reminds me, I've been telling people he reminds me a bit of Peter Crouch, in the way that he's like tall and lanky and he can use his head, but that's not the thing he's best at, which is what you might expect. He's actually quite nimble with his feet and has scored a good array of goals. In the short playing time he's had for San Antonio. So I think if he can stay healthy and fill the role for us, I'm really looking forward to what he can bring.
Yeah, and I think for him coming in being, I think he's what, like 6'4", 6'5".
Something like
I
that.
I thought straight away, all right, Kai Vassell replacement, and then I looked at his stats. I think what, 4 goals last season, before that like 1 goal and 50 odd appearances for Chicago Fire. And to be quite honest, I saw the signing. I was like, if that's going to be our Vassell replacement, I'm not impressed. But like you said, I think he kind of offers something different than what maybe his height and stuff suggests. And I know in America, people love kind of the physicality, love to say like, this guy's 6'5", he's going to be an absolute beast. But again, like you mentioned, very good with the ball, very good with his feet. So I'm interested to see how he fits in. I don't think he will be the Vassell replacement, but hopefully he
No,
can kind of fill some more of that void
no.
as well.
I think too, and something we might see out of him is the link up play. He's quite good at the 1-2s and the through balls. I think people like Conway and Toomey might find themselves on the end of some passes from Elliot Collier. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see kind of the how the strike partnership kind of changes this year as well. And obviously, no, Conway's meant to be the main guy this season, so I'm looking forward to seeing who they kind of pair him with, and again, once Conway goes off the pitch, who they kind of replace him with. So I think the strike partnership is going to be an interesting top of the season. And I want to kind of go, obviously, Blake Bodley, again, very versatile player. I think will fit into our system well. I was obviously playing with the wing backs. I think he can play either side there as well. Obviously, we've not really touched on Joe Corona much, but again, a guy of great caliber. I think now our midfield three it's gonna be a very kind of tough fight to get into that midfield three with who we have already. And then Adrian Perez, obviously, he's played a few times in pre-season. How did you make of him in pre-season from what you've seen, and what do you think he can really bring to the team?
I've only seen about 45 minutes of him in that first preseason friendly at Torero Stadium. But he looked really good. I was impressed. I think that he brings a little something different to our front line. just helps round out what our attack can do. He's very good on the ball. He's quick. I think he'll give us some good minutes.
Yeah, and I think obviously playing, he's played in the MLS, LAFC and DC United, so he's obviously got the level to play at. I mean, got the ability to play at high levels. Just seeing if he can kind of get back on track now. Obviously, I know he played in the MASL recently, so obviously his
Hmm.
career. I mean, I wouldn't say took a downturn, but I'm looking forward to seeing him this season. I think he's kind of got a lot to prove. And then rolling into the next topic here, we're obviously going to go through the current squad depth. We've not lost too many players. I know end of last season we kept 17 from the previous year. Obviously, we've lost Jack Blake and Thomas Amang after that was announced. As far as squad depth goes, do you think we are pretty much set going into the season? Is there any kind of areas that you think we need to? I mean, not we can't really improve now, but any kind of areas you're doubting a little bit, or do you think you happy everything overall?
I I think we could do with another striker. I think that we're a little thin there already. We have good players, but I think that we're lacking some goals potentially. Evan Conway is not going to be able to do it all by himself, even though I do think he's going to have a monster year. And I also just I feel as though there's a bit of like attacking profile missing from our attacking repertoire as well. That kind of like in behind piercing like threat hold up kind of play. So I hope we bring somebody else in. Um, but other than that, I do actually think we're pretty well set. Maybe we could do with a third goalkeeper just because I do wonder if Duran's going to be away a bit on the national duty. But we're pretty stacked in the midfield, and I would say our defense I feel good about. But yeah, up top, I would like another.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think really the thing is that we've obviously lost our two top goal scorers. There isn't. I mean, obviously Conway is hopefully going to have a big season this year, but I mean Collier, from what we've seen already, isn't a proven goal scorer. Perez, another one, again, hasn't proven to be an out and out goal scorer, but remains to be seen. And then Toomey again, like I said previous as well, he's had a good season in the past, so hopefully he can then do it this season. But again, it's just a case of kind of again guessing for us, and I think it would kind of relax a bit more nerves having someone else come in. Um, so we'll have to wait.
Agreed.
We'll have to wait and see. Well, obviously, we'll do a quick rundown. Obviously, keepers right now. We've got Duran Ferry, Koke Vegas. Like I said there, I think one more keeper would pretty much complete the goalkeeper unit there. Defenders this season obviously got Akon, was a kind of late addition last season. Kyle Adams, who again had a great season last season, I think he'll be kind of a stalwart at the back for us. Jackson Simba, with I wouldn't say a name change, but Simba, I think will be a good one this season for us. Elijah again, hopefully being utilised as a fullback this season more. Camden, kind of a jack of all trades. I think Camden's going to be pretty much played everywhere, like he was last season. And then obviously Grant Stoneman, who again missed a yellow card. So I think defensive wise, I think we're set. Again, I think Stoneman's going to be one that is going to be in and out purely with suspensions and whatnot. But like I said, I think we are set there midfield wise. Obviously, that midfield three is going to be kind of a very tough battle for those three. Obviously, last season being Charlie, Adams, Colin Martin, and Guido. Obviously, with Corona in the mix there, I think none of those guys are a dead cert to start, really, honestly. And obviously, we've got Blake Bodley and then Nick Moon adding more depth to the fullbacks. And then obviously got Morgan Hackworth in there as well, which, again, I don't know where Morgan plays. I don't think he knows where he can play. I think if you need a position to be filled, he can play there. I mean, hey, he can even be the third goalkeeper.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
don't know how good he's going to be at the back. And obviously, like we mentioned earlier too, the strike force of obviously Adrian Perez, Evan Conway, Elliot Collier, and Tumo Shibani. I want to go over kind of the best 11 here, though. I know it's going to be tough. And we've got no idea how it's going to look out throughout the season. I've put a rough one down here. Obviously, Koke in there. I think Duran, obviously, great goalkeeper, a lot of potential. But obviously, Koke is going to be the number one this season. I think Duran has potential to play in the cup games. Obviously, got the Albion game coming up too. I think hopefully we see him in that one. From what I've seen already, I wouldn't go too much in the preseason, kind of how we've lined up. But fullbacks, I think we're pretty much set with Elijah and Nick Moon, aren't we?
Yeah, I would say so. Obviously, you need some depth, but I think with Hackworth and Bodley, we're pretty set there. I think Moon and Martin will be one of the better wingback fullback duos in the league if they live up to their potential.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Elijah plays as a fullback for hopefully the whole season. Obviously, no, he's going to play primarily like a left centre back, but I'm looking forward to seeing how he does kind of in attack this season. The three centre backs, I think are pretty much set as far as kind of going Ebiakon, Stoneman, and Carl Adams. Do you agree with that? I obviously I know Simba is great, but I think those three are kind of pretty much set in there.
Yeah, I would definitely. I have some questions about where they'll play in each part of the back line, but I think those three are definitely the starters.
And then for you, midfield three, it's a tough one, but if you could pick any three at the four, who would you go with? And it's tough.
Yeah, I really don't know. My heart says my heart says Colin, Corona, and Guido, but my brain says Charlie, Corona, and Guido. And the reason for that is because I love Colin. I think he's maybe my favorite player, one of my favorite players. But I just think that Corona and Martin are a more similar tactical profile, and so it makes more sense for him to fill in for Colin than it does for Charlie.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my answer.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with that. I think Colin and Corona, I mean, they're very similar in how they play. I think, honestly, throughout the season, those four are just going to be rotating around, whoever's going to be the freshest. I hope, and I think Guido could almost play as its kind of secondary striker to get all four of those in there. But I'm not too sure how Nate's going to use those. And the front two, I put in here Toomey and Conway. I'd imagine you'd agree with that as far as out of the strikers we've got currently, that those would be the main two.
Yeah, barring anyone else coming in. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think obviously my only qualm with Moshibani is that I don't believe he's best suited to playing down the middle. I know he's played down the middle a lot. I think he's primarily better as a winger, which, again, going back to like Jack Blake, it's tough to fit a winger into our system when we don't play with any. But, again, I think Toomey has potential again to have a great season and kind of play off Conway if Nate kind of decides to play that way. And again, if we say go to a 4-2-3-1, something like that, again, Toomey's obviously got his wing role there, but I think it's going to be the strikers will be an interesting one this season. I think those are kind of interchange a lot as well. And then rolling into the next topic here, obviously we're going to do a quick review of the scheduling over kind of key matchups, parts of the season we may do well, struggle with. To begin with, preseason for you, how do you think preseason went?
What we saw of it, it was. It's always hard to judge, right? Preseason, but I felt good about it. I liked it. It looked like people were fit. It looked like guys were kind of getting comfortable in their roles. It was good to see, like some guys in new roles, like you talked about with Elijah on as the wingback. But it's good to see the consistency too. It's good to see a lot of these guys back. So, I think we looked sharp, I guess, but it's really always hard for me to tell from preseason games, especially with how little of it I saw.
Yeah, and I think that's been the thing. The only thing I'd have to say about preseason, it was tough as a fan to kind of get excited for the season. I know obviously there's a reason why we didn't see most of it. Let's go through the results that we were kind of given here. Obviously LAFC, we lost 3-1. Obviously that was open to the public. I mean, the fact we scored a goal against LAFC is the reigning MLS champions is not a bad one there. 3-0 versus Orange County, always great to beat Orange County. But we don't really know too much about that game. Obviously, all we know is that 3-0 first half. Again, did we change team second half? Maybe. Who knows? And then the last week, we the 1-0 versus Central Valley Fuego, a USL League One team. Again, should we be beating them more than 1-0? Potentially, but again, it's pre-season. I don't think you can really look into kind of the results there too much.
One thing to take away from that last friendly that they did tell us on Twitter was that the goal was a penalty taken by Joe Corona. So maybe we have a penalty taker on our hands. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Yeah,
but
don't speak too soon. Penalties definitely weren't our strong point last season. And then kind of as the season goes, I mean, the schedule's been out for a while now. It's a weird one in my opinion. Obviously, they've gone now and done the 2 conferences of 12 teams. We're going to play every team on the Eastern Conference once and every team on our conference twice. For you, how would you say the schedule looks? Kind of any easy parts, any harder parts? It's what are your thoughts on it?
I don't think there really are any easy parts, honestly. When you consider how strong the West is from top to bottom, and you consider the teams that were bad last year might be really good this year. OC's made some great signings. Phoenix is going to be back strong. You know, Monterey, I honestly think could be a potentially pushing for top four spot. There, I don't think there are any easy parts, and the East has strengthened also as well. I think all the two teams have left the East, and the other teams that were bad last year have gotten a lot of, gotten a lot stronger. So there's only hard parts, but I think the biggest hard part is the just massive gap of home games. Is just always hard to deal with. A lot of travel.
Yeah, and I think obviously the way they've set the season up, I think we play a lot of teams kind of twice in the space of 2 3 weeks. I know
Hmm.
San
Hmm.
Antonio, we play them. I mean, literally twice within 2 weeks. The only thing I kind of did spot a little bit here is kind of an easier finish to the season, maybe a little bit. And obviously, kind of we've got a big away stretch, and the fact is most of them are against Eastern Conference opposition. And I think from what I've saw as well online is that we've got the furthest travel for any US based team, which again is not going to be easy. So
No, I tried to find that, but I couldn't come up with it before the show. But yeah, I remember seeing that, and even if it isn't exactly the number one, it's still, we have that one stretch where we're in, like, I think it's Hartford, then Pittsburgh, then Indy. So I mean, you're flying across the country 3 times there.
yeah, and I mean it's not easy. And obviously each kind of day of travel is going to take away from training, recovery, and whatnot. So
Hmm.
I think that could be a key part. And obviously, depending on how we kind of come out of it, will determine the season. I think again last year we did very well, and I think this year potentially could be a lot tougher. And that's going to roll in kind of how we're going to finish up here with our season predictions. I want to go over kind of placement, key players, and then ones to watch. I I'm happy to go first unless you want to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, go for it.
So for me, my prediction here again, I I think we'll still come away with a home playoff game. I think probably we finish around fourth this season. Again, I love to be really optimistic and say we're gonna win the league, gonna finish first or second, but I think it's going to be a lot tougher season this year. Again, a lot of teams strengthened. Again, we've kept pretty much the same team, but I think it'll be a lot tougher this season, and probably teams will start to figure us out more now that I think we'll probably go with the 3-5-2 like we did for most of last season. My key players again, we've got a lot of key players in the team. I think you could probably say the whole starting 11 could be key players again. There's no kind of one player in there that I'd want to take out. For me, I obviously highlighted Guido. Obviously, was our star player last season. I think hopefully lives up to the role again this season. And with a guy like Joe Corona, who he's played with previously, I think those guys should flourish in the team. Obviously, Corona's another one of my ones, a former US men's national team player. No doubt should be one of our key players going to next season. And then my last one here for key players, put in Nick Moon. I think a lot of times last season, I guess some fans weren't didn't love Nick Moon for I mean throughout the season, which I don't understand at all. Which is whenever I heard kind of grabs about him, I was confused. But I think again, he's very good going forward. Again, work rate is incredible. If he stays fit this season, I definitely think he's going to be a key player. And I think one also that I think could chip in with a few goals and definitely will be key for us this season. And I'll save the ones to watch. You want to hear your prediction and key players, and then we'll wrap up with the ones to watch each.
Yeah, for sure. I want to follow on and say I also am surprised to hear that anybody dislikes Nick Moon or has any real gripes about him. I mean, players can always improve, don't get me wrong, but I feel like watching Nick Moon do his thing is like joy. Like that's what you watch soccer for, right? When he's gliding on the ball. But anyway, um I think third, fourth is a solid prediction. I think San Antonio is going to win the West again. They have strengthened somehow. So they're going to be a tough out. But after that, I think there's a solid group of like 4 or 5 teams really that could push each other, including us, New Mexico, Sacramento, Monterey, maybe Phoenix if they figure their shit out quickly. It's tough to say, but I think I'm gonna go with third, because I want to be a little optimistic, but I think it's gonna be tough for sure. It's gonna be a bloodbath in the West again. As far as key players, I agree with the three you picked. So I want to just add one more, and I will say I think that's Evan Conway. I think he was great for us last year. I think somebody said, maybe it was even Nate Miller, that all of his goals came while the game was tied. All the goals he scored all last season. So that's obviously super clutch. But I think a lot more is going to be asked of him this year. So it's going to be a big year for him, but I think he can step up and do it. So I would agree with your three key players, Guido, Moon, and Corona, but I would add Evan Conway to that.
Yeah, and I was toying whether I put Conway in the key players. For me, I put him in the ones to watch purely because I think, again, he came from USL League One, did great in that league. I think obviously last season was one of our top goal scorers, but again, I don't think we've really utilised him as best as we could. I know he played again games at left wing back, left wing, all over the place. So I think obviously he's been my ones to watch here. I think the fact that he's going to be our main striker this season, and I hope he's going to be the Carvacell kind of replacement that we've kind of been looking for. I put Elijah here as well. Obviously, Elijah's been an outstanding player for the past few seasons, but I think seeing him as a fullback now compared to as a centre back, I think it's going to be nice to see him kind of getting forward and seeing how he does there. And then lastly, I put in Simba or Kazanzu. I think honestly, the depth we've got all over the pitch is great. I know probably he's not one of the starting centre backs, but I think like we mentioned previously that if Stoneman gets a suspension or one of the other centre backs can't play for some reason, then I think he'll step in and kind of I think really he's got the highest ceiling out of anyone on the team. Maybe bar Duran. So I'll pass over to you here. Kind of wants to watch anyone different. Kind of who you're looking forward to watching this season.
I wanna emphasize Simba. I think I think he's only 19, and the kid looks composed, and he looks like he's got a lot of potential. I agree with you. He's got a very high ceiling. One to watch. I would also say Ebby Akin or Khan, or I'm actually not quite sure how to pronounce it. I think that he had a great year. I think his last season in the USL full season was either in 2019 or 2020. But he played alongside Josh Yarrow in San Antonio and had a great season. And so I know the club were working on bringing him in for a long time, and I know he came in late, midway through last year. But I think having a full off season, I'm really, really excited about what he'll bring to the back line.
Yeah, and I said I think everywhere we've got decent depth. I think there's nowhere that I'm like right. We need to bring one or two more players and maybe strike, maybe to forward. But apart from that, I think overall I'm pretty happy with the team. Again, there's going to be parts we struggle with, and again, last season being conceding the most goals of anyone in the playoffs. Hopefully, if we can change that around, we scored a lot of goals last season. I think we should be in for a good season. Kind of any last kind of points you want to mention here? I think just kind of I think it's exciting times, really.
Yeah, that was pretty much what I was gonna say. I'm just really fucking excited to get out there. Excuse my language, but yeah, really, really excited for Saturday.
Yeah, it's been way too long. It's been what I'm not gonna count the amount of months right now, but it's felt like forever. So I'm just looking forward to getting back at Torero and hopefully get a win on the weekend. But that'll wrap things up there. We are going to be releasing episodes, kind of going over pre-game, breaking our tactics throughout the season. The next episode is going to be released, going to be going over the Detroit City game coming up this Saturday. And then for everything else, check out BAM TV on YouTube. And yeah, thank you.